Well, greetings and salutations, folks. I hope everyone is doing well and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so today's upload, I had a totally different thing lined up for you guys. But I received an email probably 15 minutes before I came down here to record. And as I'm going to respond to him, hey, I got your email. Give me a couple days to get back to you. Or thank you for sending me your email. Got it. I read a little bit of it, and then I read the rest of it because it piqued my interest. So I was like, oh, okay. 1, the location. 2, a lot of the things that were mentioned, which I will go through in this upload. And I asked him, I said, hey, are you free right now? Luckily, he had about 45 minutes to an hour on his hands. We ended up talking for almost an hour and a half. And his experience out of Utah, out of Sanpete, Utah, is Sanpete County, Utah, is pretty interesting and pretty terrifying. The upload that I had planned for you initially was CIA case files, declassified case files on reptilian experiences or sightings, and you literally can find them through FOIA and all the other very great, useful tools the government gives us to steer us in wrong directions. And then I had talked to a astronomy or astrophysics teacher. He teaches observational astronomy and a couple other different courses at college up in here. And I ended up talking to him because I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask him. I reached out to him, and interestingly enough, he was willing to talk with me for 20 minutes this afternoon. And I got some really cool information that I wanted to share with you because there is something going on I really believe that I'll save the info for maybe later today or tomorrow morning. But guys, we are seeing something right now so major, and I am amazed, and so wasn't this professor, that there is not more news coverage of 3i Atlas. There's very little news coverage. And any videos that you catch on YouTube a lot of them are just AI mixed and put together, or some are very useful information. But it's hard to decipher, just like in our community here with cryptids and paranormal and You see a video and everybody wants to believe that it's true. But it's not. It's really bad. The community is just, AI really ruined a lot for us. And it's just another hurdle that we're going to have to overcome. But I know we will. But anyway, back to Sanpete County, Utah. And a gentleman named Skyler reached out to me. He and his buddy Ryan, who both 19 years old, they had both graduated a year prior and took a year off before going to college. They did this trip right before departing Utah to go to their separate respective colleges. And Manti Mountain area. I've never heard of the area. I don't know nothing about it. And what he shared with me, and then what I researched a bit on after, just to verify things, I was kind of stopped dead in my tracks because, yeah, it's quite interesting. And I believe Utah is a powerful state, just like New Mexico, Colorado, that 4-state region. What is that? Utah, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. I believe I'm right. Probably not, but anyway, let's get into Skyler's experience right now. All right, so mid-August, he does not remember the exact day. Skyler and his buddy Ryan, they've been best friends since elementary school. Pretty much have done everything together and are leaving the state of Utah pretty much for the first time in their lives separately. They planned on going to college together because they really are practically brothers. Families are very good friends, and they are the best of friends. They're kind of upset. They were kind of upset about not being able to go to the same colleges. And they decided to take this kind of excursion and do a little bit of sightseeing, camping, and amateur paranormal investigation. That's their word, not mine. What they did was they went to a location called Manti Community Campsites. And they were planning on staying for about a week. They had paid for a week and asked, hey, if we want to stay a little longer. And they were told, yeah, no issues. If you just come up at day 6. So night 1, beautifully fine. It's a campsite. It's not deep in the wilderness. It's not set. It's right before the Manti Mountain area. Now, reason why they wanted to go up here was because of some lore they had heard in school, in high school. Apparently, Manti Mountain is a beautiful mountain range consisting of a lot of ancient Native American history. There's a lot of petroglyphs there, and some are very strange. Some are things you would not expect to see. Some have boats. There are petroglyphs of boats in the middle of Utah on a mountain. And, we all know that during the course of history, there probably was some sort of ocean. We don't know how old these are. They don't know. And I do doubt that anybody has even aged them. But they wanted to go up there. They were going to use their phones to download paranormal investigation apps like SLS Cam and whatnot, EMF readers, any of that stuff that you can download onto your phone, and just go hiking, find these caves, because supposedly there's a set of caves that leads to a tunnel, and supposedly it is quite haunted. This is what they learned from one of their teachers in high school. So day one, they get set up. They don't do anything except get their campsite set up and plan their week of attack. They kind of go to bed a little early after having, obviously dinner and stuff. They wake up pretty early and prep for the day, get everything done, eat some breakfast, pack a little snacks and some lunch in their pack, definitely water, and they head out. And he recalls that it was unbelievably hot that first day. It was just so hot. Hiking up into that region, and where they were, they'd have to hike north because this Manatee community campsite is south of the mountain range. And they didn't even really know. They had a rough idea after mapping it out and talking to their old teacher where these petroglyphs and quite possibly this one cave is. They head up, and they're probably hiking for 4 or 5 hours at this point. And they're going through a lot of scrub. The trail is narrow at point and wide at others. There's a lot of desert scrub in the area. They come around a bend. They have to go under some trees and debris, and they immediately are face to face with a wall of petroglyphs, and they're looking at them. One of the first things they see is a what they believe to be a boat, some sort of vessel, which they both found really weird, and I do too. Unless this Native American tribe had gone west or east and met up with some seafaring peoples, or some seafaring peoples traveled inward and inland. I don't know which I see more plausible, and they're looking at all of this. They take out their sketch pads. They started sketching the drawing, petroglyphs, and talking. And Ryan kind of lets out this howl, like this just excited, oh my God, you got to see this. Holy cow. And it was what looked like some sort of drawing of a kind of a crudely fashioned circle drawing, and what looked like humanoid figures they initially thought they were dealing with drawings of a minotaur or something. And they're looking at these, because there's 3 or 4 of these drawings, these creatures looking at this hole that's drawn on the wall. They're standing around it, and they kind of look. They're drawing it. They're kind of looking, and they realize that no, this is not a minotaur. This is a Dogman. Now, that's not what they initially thought it was. They went right to the werewolf or skinwalker. as many of you know, the term skinwalker, Yinatalushi, is thrown around like it's Dogman, Bigfoot. It's something more powerful. It's black magic. It's Navajo lore. And it's very, it could be, it really could be. It could have been pictures of a skinwalker, but there was no transformation into a human. And Navajo used skinwalkers initially as almost like a tactical military weapon against the Ute. So the Ute Navajo wars, which were just treacherous for the Ute. They were almost wiped out to non-existence. But they see there's a couple of these 3 or 4 that are outside of this circle now on the other side and running quadruped to what looked like a pool of water, and some very strange looking trees that would not be in the Utah desert or Utah desert-like area. And they immediately look at each other and they're like, we got to be close to the cave. Let's start, looking around for that. There are some of these areas are treacherous. Mind you, they are both not avid campers and not avid hikers. They have hiked, they pretty much what they did for fun growing up. A lot of mountain biking and just basic school sports. Hiking was something that they would do, but it wasn't like what they are up against right now. There's, gorges and huge rocks and boulders and cliffs and just a lot of areas where if you are not careful, if you are not paying attention, you could be seriously hurt or quite worse, passed away. So it is a dangerous area. And that's exactly, they've got that in their head already. But now we've got to, figure out where this cave is. It's getting kind of dark. We've been up here for a couple hours now. Should we head back to camp? They both agree. And as they are walking back to camp, now they are traveling south. They are probably no more than 40 minutes away from their campsite, maybe a little longer. And probably halfway through that trip, they start hearing walking. They start hearing something walking aside of them on both sides of the trail, even when they have to kind of maneuver around these just inhospitable area. It's pretty intense. And they look at each other and they immediately think that word. They, for some reason, skinwalker popped in their head. And Skylar remembers the look on Ryan's face when he yelled out, "Leave us alone, skinwalker. We don't want anything to do with you. I command you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior." And instantly, he got this pure feeling. Ryan got the pure feeling. And they have silence for 2 to 3 minutes. So, whatever was stalking them by hearing Jesus' name, stopped for a very little bit of time, which is quite scary for a black magician creature. And they proceed to walk those 2 minutes, 3 minutes in peace and quiet. And then all of a sudden, it's much louder. And they're kind of trying to peek in the sides, like, what's over there? What's over there? They don't see anything. They do not see a lick of anything. All the way to about 10 minutes left of their hike before they get to their campsite area. These things, one on one side, one on the other, followed them. They get out, no issues, and they get back to their campsite. They unpack their stuff. They decide, hey, let's take a shower to get all the grime and dust and just crap off of us from the day of hiking. And then we'll come back to camp because there's a shower set up just away from their campsite a little ways. And we'll have dinner. We'll plan we'll plan attack for the next day. Let's not be too concerned about whatever was following us. It was probably coyote. As they're at the shower area, they're getting ready to go in and take a shower. They're still dressed, not even ready for a shower. There's a park ranger, and Ryan was really concerned about whatever was following them. And Skylar says, listen, let's go ask the ranger. And he said, we were hiking. This is where we were. We were looking at the petroglyphs and stuff. And the ranger, of course, being a ranger, I just said, I hope you guys were showing respect. Yes, sir. We're young, but we do respect everything of that kind of concern. But he said, my question is, the last 15 minutes of walking out of there on those trails, there was something following us. And he said, do you think there's coyotes up there? Because we didn't see any, we didn't hear any, except for something following us. And he says, yeah, there's coyote up there. Yeah, you just got to be really careful. Just have your head on a swivel. And so then Skylar goes, well, why would they, if it was coyote or coyotes, why would one be on one side of us and one be on the other at an equal kind of pace there? And at that point, when they said it like that, instead of just saying, hey, are there wolves or coyotes up there? No wolves that they know about. There are no active wolves in that area, supposedly. Or active pack, excuse me. But, but he, instead of just saying, just be careful, and no, it's not wolves. When they said there was one on one side of us and one on the other, that ranger was his face kind of said it all, holy shit. Whereabout was this? Then he was all kind of interested. Whereabout? So they tell him again. And he says, all right, maybe I'll have someone in, another ranger, myself, or maintenance, or someone in park, whatever, go up there and look around quick. If they departed right before the trail ends, then you should be good. But then he's like, they were on both sides of you? One on one side, one on the other, keeping pace with us the whole way. If we stopped, they stopped. So they leave it at that, but the ranger's face kind of said it all. Like, that does not sound like a coyote to me. They take their showers, they go back to their site, have dinner, and get ready for bed because they're going to go back out the same kind of bright and early and do some more exploration. So they get up bright and early next morning, and their agenda was, we know where the petroglyphs are. Let's continue to walk the same way we were going, and we will at least possibly locate some more petroglyphs or more petroglyphs in the cave/tunnel systems because of those old Native American lore of these kind of sacred, haunted tunnel systems that quite possibly go somewhere in the Manti Mountains. They end up getting to where the location that they had been. No noise, no any kind of footfall, nothing. Beautiful day, a little cooler than the day before. And they continue to walk, like, once again, not avid hikers, but young 19-year-old kids. So they're physically fit, but it's still dangerous, you know? And they start to look around as these, you know, the little nooks and crannies and stuff and cliff sides and whatever, depressions. And Skylar sees what he thinks is they're probably a mile away from the first petroglyphs that they had seen, maybe a little more, into the Manti Mountain. And he sees what he believes is an opening to a cave. And he yells for his buddy Ryan. Ryan comes over. He's instantly, when Skylar yelled, for some reason, Ryan's on edge. Even though there's been nothing happening. The night before, on edge. Had nightmares for some reason. Comes over, and they're both kind of looking down this embankment where there is just a lot of... It's like a boulder field, technically. And they both are like, I think that might be the tunnel. I think that might be the cave. Let's go down there and check it out. They've got to be super, super careful. So, you know, it's not very far away from them, but the boulders, the just unsettled ground takes them a little longer than normal, and a little longer than a straight shot to it. If there was no, you know, if it was one straight trail, no boulders, no nothing, no climbing down things. That's another thing. They had to literally climb down this kind of embankments and crevices and shit. And they get to the area where they believe this opening is. And they see a whole bunch of petroglyphs, just a whole bunch more everywhere. And these are, some are dull, some are really dull, and some are still that very vivid color. They look into this cave system, or they look into a cave system. They look into the opening of the cave, and all they see is maybe 5-foot opening deep wide, but what looks like there was some sort of landslide, cave in, whatever. 5 feet into that cave, there's just boulders and rocks and just a lot of debris. And they're kind of looking at it, just seeing if there's a way of crawling through, seeing if that's how far it goes. But they really can't. One, they've got the sunshine behind them, so it's casting some light in. But also, the rocks are. It almost appeared to be, and Ryan caught this right off the bat. He said it almost looks like someone did this purposely, Skylar. Like, this looks like it was done to keep us out or keep something in. And the more he looks at it, the more Skylar looks at it, he kind of comes to that same conclusion as Ryan did. And he says, you know what? It's probably, yeah, I think you're right. It's probably the fact that, they don't want people going in here and getting lost. Who knows, but check these out. And as they're in the wall, in this cave 5 feet in, there's all these just intricate drawings, petroglyphs. And they start to look at them, and once again, there is a rendition of a dog-headed like creature. There's that blue water right there again. And they are a couple of miles away from the initial petroglyph that they found the day before, where they thought they were looking at some sort of minotaur and realizing, oh, this is not, some sort of minotaur. What is this? Everything looks very similar, and they're kind of looking around, and for some reason, they both look up at the ceiling, because there's, it appears to be the petroglyphs are all on this side and then all on that side. So they look up to see if there's any on the ceiling of the cave. And sure enough, there's some sort of odd looking humanoid creature. And I say creature because it has wings on it. And it is this just very strange kind of indigo color, which is weird because it's you're talking about this very bright creature with wings that's bluish, greenish, a little bit of purple. It's a very strange color. I said indigo because that's what he said, but he did elaborate more because he was like, it was all kind of like all those three colors mixed. It was just this weird. And he said, what do you think that is? You think that's the Mothman? And of course I said, we have to ask Aramek about that. Aramek will tell us the truth. He is, if you don't know who Aramek is the grand wizard of Mothman research. No, I'm just kidding. And I said, I don't know. It's kind of a dumb name. I believe they are some sort of reptilian. What do you think? And they're looking. They keep going. And then there's this another picture of the hole. This circular kind of. And there's something standing in it. So you got this hole with this figure taking up the entire inner of the portal. What do you want to call it? Because you don't know. Tunnel, cave, who knows what it is. But there's this large figure standing top to bottom, filling that hole right up. So they're looking at this and, trying to figure out if it's like a regular drawing or whatnot, if this figure is to scale or not, what's it mean? And just trying to figure out what because it's weird, because everything else is, what appears to be almost scale. Obviously not, but this thing is just, if this opening of this cave entrance or this portal or whatever is standing there would absolutely be absolutely huge. So they get out and they walk out of the cave, that little kind of alcove of the cave entrance. And instead of turning back to go back out of the trail system, it's still mildly early. They got a couple hours before dark now. So they proceed to walk down the way they hadn't been yet, looking at, some spotty petroglyph here and there. Not very many, at less than in the very beginning. And they keep walking, looking, talking, laughing. Just now they are kind of at ease a little more, a little more calm. And they proceed to realize that, oh shit, the trail ended. The trail just abruptly stops and is no longer there. But once again, where they are, a desert-like wooded area, you can kind of trailblaze yourself, trailblaze right through it. So that's what they do. And they proceed to, just talk, laugh. And for some reason, Ryan remembers the apps that they had downloaded to their phone, like the SLS camera, EMF, and they had also downloaded an Ovilus. And I'll fill you in on that in a second. They continue to walk, and the petroglyphs are no more. It was few and far, but now they haven't seen one in a couple of minutes. They're like, huh, that's weird. And they get to this, just, they're walking, talking, and they've got their heads up. But because they're looking back and forth, they don't realize, like, boom, there's this huge boulder. And I don't know, that's what he called it too, boulder. But I don't know if it constitutes as a boulder. This huge, almost like someone put a wall made of rock. One solid rock. Someone just slammed down this square rock in the middle of the woods. And it looks like a page out of a book. There are petroglyphs, like, just all throughout this whole thing. Almost like it's telling one story that's just consecutive, And they both look at each other with just, like, excitement, because there's so many different pictures, so many different, like, just strange looking things. They get out their sketch pad, and backpacks are off. Ryan is content, calmer right now. And Skylar goes, let's use the Ovilus. And Ryan's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And so an Ovilus is a paranormal investigation tool. And what it is if there are any kind of spirits around, it kind of courses through these set of words that are programmed into it. It's not an infinite amount of words, but it's enough. It's a lot. And they're coming up with, like, what to ask. And the first question is, are there any spirits with us? And it's dead silent. Nothing. Just So I'd imagine there'd be more words than a real Ovilus, because they are once again programmed. Someone or some computer system probably programmed all of these words into it. But I'm imagining on a phone app there'd probably have more access to different words. So they kind of laugh that off, and he sets his phone. He said, I set my phone on my pack. And all of a sudden, we heard 4 words. And he said, for the rest of my life, I will never forget these 4 words. Run, kill, ancient, and God. So they both look at each other like, what the hell? Ryan grabs it and asks, do you want us to leave? And the app itself, like, when, like if there's some sort of glitch in your phone, it'll just reboot and you'll have to reopen the app. That's what it did. Just like shut off, reboot. So Ryan hands Skylar his phone. He puts it in his pocket, and Skylar's still looking at the wall there, which is weird because it's this square rectangular like wall not attached to any of the hillsides or boulders that are, it's just like boom, right? That's why he said it was like someone just took a page out of a book, but it was a boulder. And pack up all their stuff quick. And Ryan just starts walking away. And he said, I wonder if there's anything on the other side. And he just turns. They both turn and they start to walk down what they see now is this kind of crevice. And they are below the top part of the trail. So they are now entering into that boulder field region. And they see no farther than 150 feet this opening to a cave. And they both like, oh my God, we found it. They start to speed walk over to it, and because they want to get in there and check it out. They put their headlamps on and they proceed to walk in, looking at all sides of the walls, looking for more petroglyphs. And there's nothing there. There's nothing except just I can't explain it. It was a void. It was just this black nothing. It was just so weird. And they proceed to walk in. Lights are on. But it's so dark that the light isn't. It's almost like the light's hitting something black. But they can proceed to walk. Instead of that light illuminating 40, 50 feet into the tunnel, it's going 3 or 4 feet and stopping. And they proceed to keep walking. He believes they were in there for somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes. Just straight walking. And they come to this, what looked like up on the other side. this kind of boulder arrangement in this tunnel. But they can see the other side. They can see there's cracks and nooks to look through. He's looking for a place to kind of fit through. Both of them are. Ryan, not so much, because now his nerves are back to where they were. And they hear this kind of growl. It wasn't a dog. It was something so foreign. And they both kind of look in the openings that they can see. And they see in the distance these red eyes, all different heights, but clearly the tallest would be some like 7 to 8 feet in height. And he turns his headlamp off quick to get a better view. Tells Ryan to leave his on and turn around so the light isn't so bright. They're just looking, and all of a sudden they realize, oh shit, there's more than a bunch of these eyes. There's a ton. And they stop, and they're looking at each other. And Skylar goes, Ryan, look. And Ryan gets on the other side and he's looking through, and they see them turn. They see the eyes turn. They don't see any shape. They do not see any bodies yet. They just see these bright red burning eyes. And turning around and going the opposite direction. And they're both stuck right there. They're like, what the hell? What the hell? What was that? We got to get out of here. And turn around and start walking out of this. They got a half an hour walk out of there now. Mind you, as they started to do it, pitch black 3 feet. Not anymore. Their lights are illuminating the whole way out. They then hear behind them, and it's echoing because you're not outside. You've got an echo. They can hear rocks kind of rolling and falling. And they realize at that point something's knocking over that rock wall back there. Something's knocking over the boulders that are stacked to prevent anyone going further or anything coming out. And they hear this loud screech. And they both take off running just as fast as they can, because they can hear the screech, and they can hear footfall. They get to the entrance of the cave. They're still hearing the footfall. They turn to look, and there's just pitch black. Almost like that Vanta. Vanta black was the word I was looking for. And no eye shine, just they proceed to 20, 30 feet away from the opening, and they hear that screech again. And he said it sounded like, I guess, what a bat, or a bat mixed with a lizard mixed with a human would sound like. And they hear, and Ryan just starts hauling ass, like right away from Skylar. And Skylar's now turned looking back into the cave, and he turns and looks, and he sees Ryan just running. And then he sees him just biff it. and let out this just loud scream. Skylar runs up to him. Are you all right? What happened? Did you twist your ankle? What'd you just do? And he looks, and he's got a compound fracture. His shin, the bone is sticking, jutting right out. So when he fell, he slammed it, and it twisted against the boulders in that boulder field. And he takes his pack off. Ryan's just in immense pain, crying. Who wouldn't? You got a bone, you got part of your shin bone is split. He wraps it quick, kind of puts like a gauze wrap on it to try and keep it from bleeding, but to keep the bone from not poking out any further. And he's like, I gotta go and get us help. He goes, you can't walk. He's like, I have no signal on my phone. He's like, are you gonna be okay? We got a couple of hours of daytime left. He's like, it's like 4:30 now. He's like, are you gonna be okay by yourself? I will come right back with you. I gotta get help. I can't, if I get service on my phone, I'll call and I'll come right back to you. And he's like, okay. He's like, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. And he's like, you're far enough away from that cave. Whatever's in there won't come and get you. He goes, it's not dark. He goes, so you don't have to worry. And he proceeds to go. And he gets out of the boulder field and he starts to jog because he doesn't want to trip and do the same. So now they're both screwed. He goes past that initial cave that they had gone into 5 feet deep, and just keeps running. He gets back to camp, or he gets back out of there, gets to the camp, and he's no service yet. For some reason, there's no service at all. So he's looking at his phone and he's like, what is going on? And then he remembers, oh shit, my phone did that weird thing with the app. It turned the app off on its own. He's like, is there something wrong with my phone? And he turns it off, or to turn back on. And as he does that, he sees down towards the shower area, the ranger there. And he just takes off running as fast as he can to him. Lets him know all the details of what just happened, where they were. We got to get him. He's got, his compound. Ranger calls ahead, gets 2 more rangers to come. Another ranger with a 4-wheeler. If they have to tow him, they got that sled kind of back brace thing, so they're carrying that to him. And Skylar starts to recognize the area, and he's like, yeah, it's right up here where this crazy rock is. He goes, wait till you see it. He goes, you've never been this far out. And he's like excited because of everything that he's seen, but excited that, his friend is back there by himself, hurt. And they pass the cave and they come up, and that huge squared rock is not there. It just disappeared. So he kind of looks at everything, tries to touch any, and he's like, where'd the rock go? And the park rangers are like, what the hell are you talking about, kid? He goes, are you on something? Is that why your buddy fell? And he's like, no, it's just right down here. Come on. He's like, man, we might be in the wrong spot. And he turns down, proceeds to go towards the boulder field. And there's Ryan laying there. And Skylar yells, we're back. And Ryan's got tears in his eyes. He's got fear all over his face. It's just a sad sight. And he goes, "What's wrong with you? Are you okay? You know, are you in pain?" The Rangers are looking at his leg and trying to figure out the best way of getting him out. We can't drag him, that it might hurt his leg more. We're going to have to carry him out. So they drag him up on that boulder, and he starts to talk about what happened. And the Rangers are the Rangers are got right there. And he goes, "That thing came out of the cave. Skylar, it came out of the cave." And he's looking at his friend, and he's like, stop, just stop talking. We don't know, what. And he goes, "It was coming towards me. It was the strangest looking thing I had ever seen in my life." He said, "I believe it was some sort of reptile." He goes, "But it had this kind of just weird, and it wasn't overly muscular. It was maybe 7 foot in height totally." And he said, "I'm laying there and this thing's coming at me. And I hear a huge, loud growl from behind me. And I hear snapping like a dog would at its jaws." And he said, "I kind of turned to see as much as I could without hurting my leg." And he's like, "My leg is numb, so I'm focusing on that. And he said, "What jumped out of those off the top of that side of that cliff there is definitely a Dogman." He said there was 2 of them. They jumped off the top there where the petroglyphs were above them, above the boulder field. And the creature that was coming out towards Ryan turned around and kind of scurried into that cave. Well, so did they. And you heard this just immense fighting sound, he said. And the Rangers are now looking at him like he's on drugs. But then they pawn it off of his fucking leg, his bone leg is sticking out of his body, like he's fucked. They get him out. And as they're leaving, the ambulance shows up, and as they're leaving, because they're going to have to go in, the ranger that was at the bathroom thing says it's just best you forget about this. Don't talk about anything that you saw, and keep his mouth shut too. He said, because if he keeps talking like that, it's going to bring trouble, and not from those creatures, but from the government. Hospitalized. Skylar comes back to the camp, breaks it down, puts it all in his car, and drives, over to the area hospital region, which was quite a trip away. About an hour and a half away. And he gets back to the hospital, and his friend Ryan didn't remember a lick of it. He didn't remember any of it. And so he's like, "That's so weird. Well, how did you just forget about it when we were talking about it less than an hour ago?" So he's kind of confused, and he makes his way out to go to a vending machine and get a soda or a quick snack. And the reception lady at the hospital, or charge nurse or whatever it was, looked at him and said, "Your friend's uncle seems really nice." He said that, if anything were to arise, he'll be kept in the loop, right? And she explains the HIPAA thing, and she said he kind of looked at her like she had 4 heads, but he left. And Skylar's like, "What did he look like?" Very similar to Ryan, but just older. So he runs out and looks around, and he's like, and he comes back and he's like, "What do you mean looks like Ryan but older?" And she said he looked not exactly like him, but you could tell that he was a relative. And he goes, "We don't have relatives like that would come immediately to us. The relative that would come to him right now would be his mom and dad, which they're on their way now." He's like, "Why would his uncle come in?" She's like, "I don't know, hon, but spit an image, just older." And he's like, "Men in Black," in his head. To this day, the only way Ryan knows anything is because of Skylar filling him in. And he was the one that watched these dogmen tear apart a crawler. Maybe a reptilian, who knows? I think it was something much different than a crawler or a reptilian, because it was the way he explained it. It kind of had this kind of hood around its neck area. Very strong looking, but very scrawny in the same sense. So I guess there are places that people shouldn't go to. Look at all these people that end up disappearing, and it's pretty tragic. So now, really quick before we end it, this is what I do when I talk to somebody. I literally jot down everything, and then I'll read the notes and then do the upload. I don't know what that creature was. I believe it was a reptilian or a crawler, something along those lines, but something dangerous. And then where did the dogman come from? And why did it choose to, attack that creature? Well, for a human, it's very strange. And I guess there's a lot more Indian lore about some sort of demon-like creatures. Well, jinn, something along that line. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting this channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.